Greetings to my family, my friends, my neighbors, judges, my old staff, the courthouse staff, my new staff, members of law enforcement, and members of the bar, and there are probably other people in there too, but there are many of you who are fit in many of those categories, and I must say it's one of the things I have loved about being in Mendocino County, is that I mean, as somebody is a lawyer, but I know them because, as Scott pointed out, because they're the parents of kids I've grown up with, because I've done recreational or social activities. It just goes on. And particularly when you've lived in a county, like most of us have, as long as we have, you have these incredible multiplicity of contacts with people. You can't even remember how it is that you first got to know somebody because it's so interwoven, and that happens so nicely in a smaller area like this. I am a very lucky guy. I mean, I can't begin to tell you all the ways I'm a very lucky guy. It's incredible. I'm going to cover some of them today, of course, but it just goes on and on. There are a lot of reasons for this investiture ceremony. If it were just the need for me to be sworn in by Dave or someone else, that could have happened in a 5-minute deal anywhere. But obviously, there are other reasons to do this. One is to give thanks and acknowledgments to a number of different people that I want to do. And I'm not going to make this lengthy, but it is important to do this. Scott said that I don't say briefly when I mean that. First of all, the speakers, thank you very much. So, I think I picked pretty well. There were a number of supporters and well-wishers. You know, this isn't a campaign, but it is a campaign. It was not a campaign where I'm getting votes, but it was a campaign at some level to have the governor decide, and it's not easy for the governor to decide. And Janine talked about it last night at her investiture. This was over a year of a lot of odds and ends things going on, but there were a lot of people who were extremely helpful, whether it's filling out a Jenny Commission questionnaire or writing a letter of support to the governor or whatever, and a lot of you have been extremely helpful in that, and I appreciate it. I don't know what makes the difference. These things are not transparent, how these decisions are made, but I appreciate all the support and help I had from many of you. I want to particularly, the front row is a special row here, and I particularly want to point out some of the folks in the front row. I want to point out my old staff, some of which is Dave's old staff, but not entirely, and particularly my office manager of 20 years, Val Hofert. Val, you need to stand up so people can... And Aubrey Watterson, my other secretary, who's been staffing me for 5 years now. And the other attorney in our office, Madeline Sager. Madeline, please stand up. We got to explain, Madeline came to Dave and me 10 years ago. So we've got 5, 10, and 20 years. Boy, we've had some loyal, when Dave and I were together, and since then we've had loyal long-term employees. It's a wonderful thing. And I know, and we've got, I was going to say, if anybody else is an ex-employee, please stand up, and I think it's about half the crowd here. You aren't the only one. Oh my gosh. Madeline has a record that I know is not shared by any other attorney in Mendocino County. And Madeline's record is she has worked now for 3 attorneys and who have been appointed judge by the standing governor at the time while she was working for them. Now, that's not always a good thing, because it meant that when Leonard Lacasse got appointed, she had to move. When Dave got appointed, fortunately, she already had a home, and now I've been appointed, and she's had to move again, although ironically, she's now working for Mason & Morrison in our same building, so she didn't have to move at all because she's keeping her same office upstairs. But it does mean that if somebody really wanted someone to get an appointment to the governor, by the governor to become a judge, hire Madeline. I want to particularly thank Dave Nelson for our many years of a wonderful partnership. It really was a great partnership, and maybe we'll argue now, but we didn't ever argue partners. I mean, we really are sort of similar beings in that regard. But also, Dave was the ability for me to persuade Sandy to get to California. And you're right, it wasn't necessarily a simple sell. She was not from California. I want to thank also Tim and Tom, Mason & Morrison. We've been building partners now for 20 years. but it's more than being building partners. They're downstairs, I'm upstairs, but it's been a wonderful ability for me to collaborate and brain trust with them, but also just having the collegiality of having both Tim and Tom and their staff, because it's been a wonderful staff for all those years. So that's been a real plus for me. Thank you. And Tom, is he mixing wine wherever Tom is? Yeah, he's over there. And Tom always takes care of the drinks. I also want to thank Jonathan Lehan. Jonathan is back here. Now, a lot of you may not know Jonathan. Jonathan retired, and by Jonathan retiring, I'm able to take the seat. It was his seat that I'm filling, at least on paper. Jonathan was the long-term 10-mile court judge, the fourth-ranked judge.